Z Measure O committee to order. If you join me in a salute the flag, which is in miniature form over my right shoulder. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see that we do have a quorum established, so we'll proceed with the meeting. First of all, is there any request for any modifications of the agenda as submitted to you?
I haven't had any, Chair.
Okay, seeing none, we will move forward with the agenda as presented. Next item would be the opportunity for the public to comment on non-agenda items. So if we have any attendees who are interested in commenting on an item not on today's agenda, now would be the time to do so.
And Chair, I don't see any hands raised from the public.
Okay, then we'll move on to section 4, which would be the approval of the action summary of the October 28th, 2021 meeting. Is there any request for any modifications or amendments to the action summary as submitted in your packet?
Chair, I have a minor modification to the action summary.
Okay.
And I will go ahead and share my screen. Oh, Neftali, can you enable screen sharing? Let's see. All right. Here is the modification in red, is just to show the attendance of who was at the meeting. It was just a minor modification there. And showed we had everybody present. We had one member absent.
Okay. I assume that that modification is acceptable to the committee members. Anybody not happy with that modification?
Chairman Zimmer, I was absent as well from the last meeting.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I saw there, which is that I was absent as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, with that correction to the modification, is everybody comfortable with the action summary as submitted? The chair would entertain a motion to approve as amended then, please.
I so move.
Motion by Mr. Robertson.
Mr. Brockle seconds.
Okay. Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand in the frame.
Chair, we need to go out to public comment before we make a quick.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment on the action summary or the modifications to the action summary?
We're not showing any public comments.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand in the frame. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next would be the county administrative office updates.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Welcome, everybody, and Happy New Year to the committee. Looking forward to our process this year. Really quickly, we had originally scheduled to have a quick 15-minute Brown Act refresher for your committee. Unfortunately, the staff who was set to do that today is not in the office. They're out sick. So we will schedule to do that at our next meeting. Again, it'll be a quick meeting or a quick agenda item. Another reminder, your Form 700s are going to be due in April. If you all need a copy of those Form 700s, let me know and we can make sure that you get that documentation and provide support to you to make sure that you fill that out and submit that correctly. And really quickly on projected revenues for fiscal year 22-23. The initial projected revenues that we have, staff are estimating just a little over $13 million for 22-23. 13.066 to be exact. And that estimate comes with a big caveat. As your committee is likely well aware, there are still several fiscal years in the past that have not been closed. And there are a lot of transactions that still need to be posted to our general ledger. And so those transactions will affect the amount of funding available for fiscal year 22-23. In addition, we have received revenue estimates from our consultants from last year. However, conditions in the economy are changing by the day, it seems like, specifically the cannabis economy in Humboldt County. Again, you all may be aware of the dire situation that our local cannabis community is in right now, and they're seeking a lot of reprieve due to market conditions, low product prices, and this is a situation that we have not been in yet as a county. And so we are waiting to get revised estimates for fiscal year 22-23. The worry is that that could significantly affect sales tax revenues in the coming year. So right now, staff feels comfortable with projecting 13.066 for fiscal year 22-23. When your committee comes back in March to begin evaluating applications or receive applications and evaluating them, we will have that number firmed up, or we hope to have that number firmed up as we learn more about the final transactions. Hopefully those will be posted to prior fiscal years. We'll be able to carry that, any unspent funding forward. The good news is that we do know in fiscal year 2021 that revenues came in higher than budgeted and even adjusted budget. We went back to the board several times to adjust the revenue numbers higher, and revenues came in even higher than what we adjusted. So that is a very good thing for this committee. But again, we still need that information to be posted so we can be clear on the numbers that we are projecting. And finally, just administratively, receiving panelist invites for this meeting. They don't typically come from staff. They are produced by the Zoom system. So just make sure that you look out for those emails when they come through. It might look different than other emails, but that's how panelists are going to be receiving invites for this meeting. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to talk to your committee about that.
Just to reinforce Sean's discussion there about the invites, I had been pampered, I guess, by receiving the emails to my personal email, and I got lazy and didn't look at my Gmail. And in fact, the Zoom invite was on the Gmail. So just remember, you have the county established Gmail account, and Zoom seems to apparently direct them, at least on a primary basis, to that account. So check that account as well as your personal one, because I failed to do that, unfortunately. Question for staff. In the October meeting, there was direction given to staff to communicate to the Board of Supervisors regarding our discussion on the micro grants and try to get some temperature taking, so to speak, of the board to see if they had any interest in pursuing that. Did that communication take place? And if so, what was the result?
Yeah, that communication took place, and staff learned that there is not broad support for that, especially at this point for this funding cycle. If your committee wants to consider developing something for next year or have a broader discussion in April when we make recommendations to the board on funding for this cycle, that discussion can be had there. We did talk about, we did have conversations about maybe making some kind of a point-based system where there's not a lot of discussion. That is one of the concerns, at least from staff's end, is the administration of small value contracts or small value awards, developing contracts, having prolonged discussion about small value things. So if your committee wants to have a little bit more of a discussion with the board about that in April, that would be a good time to do so.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? Clarification of any of the items brought forward? Any questions or clarifications requested by public attendees?
Not seeing any hands raised, Chair.
Okay. We'll move then to item D3 on the agenda, which is the approval of the final application for 22-23 fiscal year.
All right. And Chair, I have, pardon me, I have another modification to or note for this agenda item. And again, I'll share my screen. Let's see. So just at the, are you guys seeing that application here on the screen? So at the top, there was just a couple of changes on the committee members' names, making sure that Bob Bronkel is listed as the at-large and committee member Tammy Trent is listed as an alternate there. And we had another a change here at the bottom of page 1 where it said you can contact Alicia Hayes. Alicia Hayes has moved into the county administrative officer role. And so I'm proposing just to eliminate that and just say that applicants or potential applicants can contact the CAO's office. And finally, on page 2, there was a reference for requesting funding for fiscal year 21-22, and that should be 22-23.
Okay. And this application as presented includes all of the comments and elements that were discussed in the October 28th meeting, I assume?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay. So committee members, are we comfortable with the application as amended by Mr. Quincy, Mr. Bronkel?
I would recommend that my last name be spelled correctly.
Well, if you want to be that precise, I guess we can do that. Maybe you should forward the spelling to them, since in fact they may not know the correct spelling.
It's with 2 L's. I've got it. Sorry, Bob.
Okay.
And I'm not the only one that made a mistake with those updates.
Okay. Any other comments or issues that committee members like to raise regarding the application for 22-23? Any comments from the public?
I see one hand raised and I will bring them in.
Can you guys hear me?
Good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting.
Hi, everyone. It's Brenda Juarez from Lolita. I'm back again to attempt Measure Z. This was about Measure Z, right? We were
Yes.
discussing right now. Okay. So this year I would like to apply better than I did last year to see if we can get a chance. Would this be a meeting for me to find out how to apply? Because last year someone told me that I should probably break down the funding in different applications, right? So do like one application for part of the fund and another application for another part of the fund instead of asking for one big lump sum and adding everything in there. Would this be the appropriate meeting, or how would I go about figuring out the best way to correctly apply?
Okay. If memory serves me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, committee members, I believe there was support last time for the idea that a global application such as you submitted probably was going to be less favorably received, not as a result of any official action of the committee, but it was just kind of the consensus of the committee members that a more targeted application probably would have had a better chance. There was also the factor that obviously the global application had a significantly higher price tag and so on. So in some cases that might put it outside the parameters of the fund. So I think as far as general advice is concerned, the committee did suggest that you present more targeted applications and so on. We have never counseled or otherwise tried to craft the particular applications for an applicant. Our experience has been that if you have specific questions that you'd like to raise about submitting an application, you can submit those to the county staff, and the county staff would be more than happy to communicate with you if you have kind of a technical question. Is that responsive to your inquiry, or I'm not sure that it is?
Yes, it is. It is. Thank you. I just, the way that you just reframed everything that we talked about last year gave me a little bit better idea as well. And so, and when you say to reach out to county staff, is that Sean and Neftali, or?
Yeah, if you just use the app or the contact information that's on the Measure Z website, you'll get to the staff members that are assigned to this. Like I said, they're available and happy to answer any specific questions you have. Eligibility and stuff probably is not within the domain of that sort of communication and so on, because as you probably remember, the committee will go through a process whereby the committee will make the determination about their feelings about eligibility and so on. So those types of questions, you can certainly talk to the staff about their opinion and so on, but that actual determination will be made by the committee in our initial review of the applications.
Right. Awesome. No, thank you so much. Thank you guys for your time.
Okay, thank you for your time. Any other members of the public?
Not seeing any other hands raised, Chair.
Okay, so is there a motion then to approve the application as modified and presented here today for disbursement for the 22-23 funding period?
So move.
By Mr. Bronco. Is there a second?
Seconded.
By Mr. Robbins. Any discussion at the committee level? Any public comment on approval of the application for the fiscal year 22-23 term? Okay, seeing none, we'd go all in favor then, please indicate by putting your hand in the picture frame.
It's like 8 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, none opposed. Okay, then the motion carries. Okay, then the final item, or the second to final item for today's meeting would be the election of officers for the 22-23 year. It's been our custom to have the chair and vice chair voted on each year, and this would be the point in time when that would take place. So are there nominations for the chair of the Measure ZO committee for the 22-23 fiscal year period?
I would like to nominate Glenn Zemer for chair. And Justin for vice chair. Let's do them both.
Okay. Other nominations? Just in response to Mr. Bronco's suggestion, I have no particular problem continuing on, but I also am a little leery of these legacy organizations where, people essentially are never termed out and so on. So I'm more than happy to serve, but if somebody has the interest, I think it's probably healthy for the community to have a variety of exposures to the different chair and vice chair positions. So like I said, I'm happy to try to serve you again, but I would encourage anyone who has the interest to let it be known, because I think it's healthy for the process overall. Any other?
I'm of the opinion that if it isn't broken, you don't need to fix it.
Well, at my age, I can become broken pretty rapidly. I guarantee you, Scott. Are there other nominations for either the chair or vice chair? Okay, Mr. Bronco, would you just make it two individual motions so it's clear? That way you don't have any individuals who have to compromise their vote based on wanting to support one or the other.
All right, let's start with the first motion. To nominate Glenn Zemer as chair of the Measure Z committee.
And I seconded it.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion at the committee level? Any public comment?
I would like to add a discussion.
Okay.
No, and just very brief. I really respect what you said, Glenn, about not wanting to create a legacy position. And I think as committee members, we might want to watch how Glenn operates and try to think about how any one of us would step into that in the coming years, because I think we're getting to a point where it would be responsible for him to say, maybe I'm done. And that might be next year or the following year. But I think we might want to be aware of that as a committee.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from committee members? Or comments from the public? Okay, on the motion to nominate,
Chair, Bren from the public has her hand up.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Sean?
Yes, Bren J from the public has her hand
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry. I was watching Sean and I didn't see. Go ahead. Did we enable our public commenter, Mr. Quincy?
There it is. Yeah, I think I just also wanted to add on to what Nicholas said, and I'm on a few boards and I had never heard a president express it in that way, and that's really it was really nice to hear, because it makes me feel comfortable too for my community, like, hey, it's not just one person trying to run it one way. And so I really appreciate how you worded that, and you just taught me something new, so I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other community comment? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to reappoint Glenn Ziemer for the 22-23 year as chair of the Measure Z committee, please indicate by raising your hand in the panel.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Chair.
Opposed? Abstentions? Wow. Okay, Mr. Bronco, your second motion.
I would like to nominate Justin Robbins for vice chair for the Measure Z committee for the upcoming fiscal year.
And I seconded it.
Okay, motion and a second to nominate Mr. Robbins for vice chair. Any community discussion amongst the committee members? Any comment from the community, the public at large?
Seeing no hands raised.
Okay, so all those in favor of nominating, or actually appointing Mr. Robbins as vice chair for the 22-23 fiscal year, please indicate by raising your hand in the frame.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see 7 yes votes.
Okay. Opposed? Abstentions?
1
Okay.
abstained by Justin.
Congratulations, Justin. I very much appreciate your support, but I am very serious about my concerns about this legacy business. So maybe amongst yourselves, I would certainly encourage, and I will work to encourage some of you to try to take the position next year, because I certainly would decline it next time. I think I've been here long enough. So give some thought to it, and there's not much of a workload, occasionally a little bit of a workload, but nothing of any real consequence for, I think, any of you. And I think everybody in the committee has the capability to do this well. So let's look for some fresh leadership next time. That's the only items I see on our agenda. Any other items that need to be brought forward from staff? Maybe just a quick reminder of the dates and so on that we are scheduled to go forward in March.
Sure. Just 1 second, Chair. Let me bring that up.
Mr. Bronco.
One of the March meeting dates is scheduled for a county holiday, and I'm unclear if that meeting will take place or not.
Good point. I hadn't made myself aware of that.
The March 31st meeting that you're referring to, Bob. And I did not catch that until I think after we published the dates, but if it's sort of a tentative date anyway, sometimes we can finish in those first 3. And if we can't, then we can move 1 week further if needed. But we can tackle that at that time. Does that seem right, Sean?
So I have our upcoming schedule as March 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th. Is one of those dates, which one of those dates is it? What am I missing, Bob?
It's the 31st, which is Cesar Chavez Day, I believe he's talking about.
Okay.
And so that's usually held as a tentative if we cannot complete our business in the earlier dates in March.
It came across on my Outlook calendar as a reserve the date for the meeting and
Go
Okay.
ahead,
just caught my
Ernie.
attention.
Yeah, March 17th is St. Patrick's Day. Is everybody aware of that? We might already be partying.
Wow.
Okay, so the 31st is, as I recall, is an alternate date that was designated if in fact the work was not able to be completed in the prior 3 meetings. Is the committee comfortable that we have the flexibility to alter that date if necessary, if in fact the meeting on the 31st becomes necessary? Are we comfortable with taking that posture at this point? I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads, so I believe that there is a consensus on that. Any public comment on the schedule proposed by staff?
And Chair, your committee already adopted the schedule at the October 28th meeting,
Okay,
and there's nothing on the agenda today to
to deal
talk
with.
about altering the schedule.
Okay, just trying to err on the side of public comment.
Yep.
Mr. Cole.
I just had a question for clarification. And I think this is more directed for Sean. Based on what we've said today and what your response from the Board of Supervisors was, are we holding off on all conversation on the micro grant topic until after the allocation process of this year?
Well, your committee can certainly agendize something for future meetings to talk about this amongst the committee. You know, anytime you guys would like, but that's the conversation that that's the feedback that I've received. So if you guys want to bring it back at some point in March, that's something that we can do.
Just for kind of clarification of Nicholas's point, when we spoke to supervisors, the strongest support for the concept came from Mr. Wilson, clearly. Supervisor Madrone seemed to be at least open to the idea, and Supervisor Bass was potentially maybe the third vote for it. I believe Ms. Bass has indicated she is not going to seek re-election. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah. So I guess the question would be, we would probably need a third vote to bring the matter, forward. And I didn't have the sense without Virginia's vote that would be the case. So I share your interest in it. I'm just trying to see a mechanism. That there are two concerns. One is you need the Board of Supervisors support, obviously, to alter the way that we administer the program. And secondarily, I think we do need to be respectful of the staff concerns about the workload issues that might be created and so on. But I personally like the idea, and I think it should take some effort on our part to try to construct it in a way that we can overcome those hurdles. So I would encourage people to at least think about it and develop your own viewpoints and postures so that when we complete this year's round of applications, we'd be in a good position to try to look at it a little more comprehensively. Is that acceptable to you, Nicholas?
It is, because I really feel this is a kind of a longer term conversation. And I feel as a committee, one, we talk about support from the Board of Supervisors. I wanted to be able to find a way to figure out what the support within our own committee. And we only have this mechanism to do that. And so if we even decided that we want to move forward with something, I really feel we need to be able to provide a framework or a solution to how we would implement that before we ask for real, like if there's support from the Board of Supervisors. I think we need something much more developed.
Yeah, absolutely. Going before the board with kind of a nebulous concept is pretty much a guarantee for no action or disaster in any case. So to the degree that we could flesh it out and come up with a pretty well-defined proposal, I think the concept would be well served in that direction. I saw a hand, but my screen just reoriented it to Ernie. There you are.
Ernie.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there anybody that's willing to write up a clearly defined proposal as to what this micro grant is? So
I have
rather than verbally.
I have a verbal framework, at least as a discussion starting point.
Could we ask you maybe, Nicholas, to put it in some sort of outline form and then bring it back to us
Absolutely.
as an information item? So just so everybody would understand and have consensus on what the concept actually entails.
Is that something I could put together and send to you, Glenn, for disbursement, or should I send that to staff?
It should go to staff first of all, and then they would distribute it to the committee members as kind of an information piece at this time, since it isn't agendized.
Okay, and that can be a conversation that I would like to pick up in April, because I don't want to try to have this conversation while we're going through the process.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. All right, that completes our agenda as I understand it. So we will look forward to seeing each of you on the 3rd of March. Obviously, the staff will be circulating all of the applications and attendant materials to you prior then. I noticed the 18th is the closing date. When are you proposing that they be available and circulated to the committee members?
The applications that we receive,
Yes.
let's see, we can try to get the applications to you all by the 25th and get them posted onto the county's website. And that should be enough time. Hopefully we'll post the agenda on the 25th for the March 3rd meeting. So,
Okay, so everybody would have at least a week to review the applications then.
yeah.
Okay, that would certainly be desirable. All right, well, thank you all for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the 3rd of March. I would consider the meeting adjourned at 2:32 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.